Opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey Radio Show. I'm Jen Cruz, your host tonight, and we're showing up as the She-Squatchers because we're going to be talking about Bigfoot encounters. So, as the She-Squatchers, I've got my trusty teammate Jena Grover on the line. Hey, Jena, are you there?
I certainly am, and again, like always, but in a different way, I'm excited. We've got Jason here, so I'm sorry, I just spilled the beans.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, fine. She beat me to the punch. We've got Jason Lawson with us as our special guest tonight, and he's going to come to share about his Bigfoot encounters as well as his theories on why Bigfoot research has gained such increasing popularity in the recent years. Let me tell you a little bit about Jason. He's from Alabama. He is the founder of the Deeper Truth-Seeking Organization, otherwise known as DATSO, right? In DATSO Film Productions. As a Bigfoot researcher, Jason is not just a believer, he's also a knower. He's already had 2 Sasquatch sightings and continues to search for more, always seeking to learn and to grow. As an empath, he tends to be more of a watcher and a listener when around others in a group. He's absorbing the wisdom and energy of others. He's married with 4 children and 3 grandchildren, and works full-time in a metallurgical test lab for a major steel manufacturing company. Mr. Lawson is also a fully ordained minister and singer-songwriter musician. So, without further delay, let's bring Jason on. Hey, Jason, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hey, welcome to the show. We're so excited you could join us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be with you tonight.
We're super excited. And we just want to know, how did you get involved and interested in Bigfoot?
Well, what got me started was my first sighting, which was about 4.5 years ago. I really didn't have any interest in Bigfoot. I was a skeptic. Really didn't believe until I had my first sighting. I was driving home from work one evening, and as I made a right turn, I noticed somebody standing beside the road. I thought it was somebody. I wasn't sure what I was seeing. It had just got dark, and I slowed down to get a better look. And as I slowed down to take a look, they stepped back over a fence that was about 4 foot tall. I didn't know it at the time how tall the fence was till I went back a couple of days later to investigate, to get a look and kind of wrap my mind around what I had seen. But as I had slowed down to nearly a stop, I was about 10 foot away from them. And it was just amazing how tall this person was. And, that's what I was thinking at the time. It was a person. And I said, I don't know anybody that could be that tall. And so after I gathered my senses and had made it home, I didn't think about it. I said, I'm going to go back in the daytime and look. I'm not going back at dark. And so I went back about 2 days later, and it was at a gentleman's house that raises fighting roosters, and he had several thousand chickens there. And the fence was right beside his house along the road. And when I got out to check, now I'm almost 6 foot tall. I'm 5'11". And when I stood up against the fence, it come way up on me, nearly to my chest. And I said, this had to be somebody well over 7 foot tall, and I don't know anybody in the area that's that tall, maybe 7 to 8 foot tall, just to be able to step over that fence. I had to push it down, way down, to get over it. So that's what got me started. was after I had that sighting and realized what I had seen, and then put the pieces of the puzzle together, that with the chickens there, that was a good food source. And at the time of the year, it was in November, and it was a deer hunting season, and a lot of deer in this area, a lot of deer. And so that's what got me started when I started looking at videos, going to YouTube, and just really getting into it, and realized what I had seen. So that's what got me interested and got me started.
So then you were hooked, huh?
I was hooked. I went from being a skeptic, a non-believer, to a knower, knowing that what I had seen could not possibly been a human being like I had first thought, because of the height. Just when I seen them turn and step over the fence, it was just a casual, just like they was taking their time. They wasn't in a hurry. It wasn't a run. They just turned, stepped over the fence, swung their legs over, and walked into the woods. It just blew me away.
So, Jason, who did you tell first after this happened, and
Well,
after you went back the next day?
It was many years. It was actually last year. Bigfoot Alex Bobulinski. I had got a good rapport with him, and actually mentioned to him, and he came up to the house, and we talked, and I had some activity around my home place. We have recently moved. We moved last year in November, and moved about 3 miles up the road, but the property that I was at was having a lot of activity there. So when I had talked to him, he was really the first one that I had actually told him about it.
Oh, well, what did he
You
say?
didn't even tell your wife?
Well, at the time, I wasn't married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I recently remarried 4 years in June. So
Congratulations.
At the time, I was living on my mom and dad's property. My dad, he's passed away, been 4 years.
Sorry.
March 15th. And so I was staying with them, trying to help, with dad and everything. And so it was one of those things that you're kind of scared, or, reserved about telling anybody, because, how are you going to be seen, or, how's people going to think of you? I believe that's one reason a lot of people don't tell about their sightings. They keep it to themselves because they're afraid of ridicule, and afraid, people making fun of them. So,
You're very right. You're
yeah,
very, very right.
So it was quite a while before I even told anybody, and he was really the first person that I told. So.
Very interesting. So then you started to research and look for him on purpose. Did you find a partner to do that with you, or were you just going out by yourself?
No, I've been by myself. Really hadn't reached out to anybody. I'm the type of person, I'm a loner. I like to watch and to observe people. I'm a people watcher. And so I normally, when I take a task, I normally go by myself. So.
Okay. So what type of techniques do you use in trying to attract Bigfoot?
Well, a nice haircut. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good. Cologne.
Yeah, Snickers bar.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I actually heard they like Zagnut bars, so
What is a Zagnut bar?
It's a candy bar. You might not have it in your area. Let's see. One of you's in Minnesota, and the other's in North Dakota.
Well, Texas right now, but I'll be home in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a candy bar. It's
okay. Full of nougat.
I really don't know how to describe it. It's more of a crunchy type. Yeah.
Oh. So I have a question for you, Jason, though.
Okay.
Getting back to Bigfoot. Did you bring Bob out there? Did you show him around where the sightings were?
I actually did a Google map and gave him the coordinates where I had my first sighting. Just over probably 2 years ago, after I had got into the Bigfoot, phenomenon and the scene, and had watched, Finding Bigfoot and some of these shows, and, Mountain Monsters and some of those shows. My wife and two of my children, my grandchildren, was out on the front porch one night. So I slipped around the edge of the house and I did a Bigfoot yell. Well, when I looked back around, they had all left. They had gotten the house. They didn't know I was out there. Well, a few days later, I started hearing sounds around the house. Apparently, me doing that call had caused some activity. So for about a year and a half till the time we moved, we had a lot of activity. One night at midnight, as me and my wife laid in bed, it was, I explained this to Alex, it's hard to explain. If you ever listen to the Ohio Howl, I think Matt Moneymaker recorded this back in 1994. It's very similar to that, but what I heard and what my wife heard had a lung capacity that was unreal, because it was a moan, a growl, a howl all together, and it was extended. It was for a good length of time. And I said, whatever did that had to be very large to have, the lung capacity to do that. And after it had made the sound, my wife, she looked at me, she said, "What is that? Is that a Bigfoot?" And I said, "I'm not sure." And she said, "Are you going out to investigate?" I said, "No." After that, I said, as long as it's outside and we're inside, we're good. If it tries to come in the house, we've got a problem. But it was the eeriest sound I'd ever heard. A lot of people that I had talked to and explained it to them, they said, "Are you sure it wasn't a coyote or even a panther?" Because we have had some black panther sightings over the years, and there is coyotes and such as that. Well, I'm pretty familiar with the wildlife and the sounds that they make, and this wasn't. This was very, very surreal to hear it, and I've got goosebumps even thinking about it.
Wow.
But after that, my daughter, she had to get up and go to work early one morning, and I didn't know it. I drive about 75 miles one way, and she drives a little bit further. Where we live is kind of rural. We live west of Birmingham, Alabama, and so we both have to drive that direction. So I guess it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, right outside the bedroom window, I heard whoop, whoop, whoop. And I looked at my wife. I said, "Is that Christiana outside?" She said, "I don't think so. She left about 2 hours ago to go to work. She had to go in early to open the store." And I said, "You're kidding." She said, "No." I said, "Well, who is that?" She said, "I don't know who or what that is." So I actually think it might have been a juvenile outside doing that. I've got a picture that I took from a video when Alex came down, and we did a night investigation. And that's on YouTube. It's under Alabama Wood Booger, and it's part 1 and part 2. But I went down the next morning and took my iPad, and I was filming as I walked a dry creek bed. And when I got back and was going through the footage, I actually found something. Now, I know that, people's evidence, what we believe to be evidence, other people may be skeptical of it, and science kind of discounts anything besides the body. But I've actually got a photo, and I sent a message to Alex to show him, and he said, "Go back down, look at the area, take several pictures, and make sure you're not looking at a stump, what we call a stump squatch." A lot of people, they'll see a tree stump or something, and they think it's a Bigfoot. But I've actually got the photo, and when you look at it, I know when I look at it that I can see the facial features, the eyes, the nose, everything, the mouth. And I think it was probably a juvenile, because this was about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I would think that a juvenile would be less, likely to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They would be more prone to go out in the daytime, I guess is what I'm saying. They wouldn't be as cautious as an adult would be. So I believe that juvenile that had been making that sound, I actually got a photo of him. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. I'd love to see that.
Me too. I'm totally going out there. And you said it was at Alabama Wood Booger?
Alabama Wood Booger. It's under Bigfoot Bob. There's part 1 and part 2, the night investigation that we did. So
Very fun. Awesome. We're going to have to check that out later.
That's one of my favorite names, you know, the Wood Booger.
I always, the first time I'd heard that, I'd heard Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeren, Yeti, all these other names,
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it.
I went to the Wood Burger Grill in Norton, Virginia when I was out there last year.
I don't know if I could eat somewhere called Booger.
Well,
Wood Burger. Yeah, it's Jena. Your microphone is really loud. If you want to pull it away just a little bit, that'd be great.
That's my laugh. Sorry, my laugh is a little bit loud.
No.
Yeah, I have this problem with laughing really loud. How about now?
That's better.
Okay.
That's better. All right. So, so you've been researching ever since, and now, did you move away from that spot, or are you still in a hot spot?
We're about 3 miles from that spot, and I'm not going to call my neighbor out because he's not really an enthusiast. The job that he has, he deals with the public, so I wouldn't want to besmudge his name or put a spotlight on him. But after we had moved where we're at now, my wife was talking to his wife at her job, and she said, "Well, my husband is a real big Bigfoot." And she said, "Well, my husband is too. They'd get along fine, being next door neighbors." And said that her husband actually found feet print around their house. And I haven't talked to him as of yet. It's been November since we moved in here, so it's been 6 months. I haven't talked to him.
Well, you better get on it. I want to hear what happened.
So about a week later, he was in the store that my wife works at, and they were talking. And he said, "By the way, have y'all heard anything back behind your house at night?" And she said, "Oh yeah, several times. We had actually heard when the coyotes started up, and they was yelping and having a fit that you could hear in between the coyotes. You could actually hear these sounds and these howls." So the creek that runs by our house is actually the creek that runs by the other house that we own. So it's the same waterway. My theory is they use those dry creek beds during the fall and the winter time to navigate and use them as a roadway. So I think this area, just being 3 miles apart, is probably still the same activity, maybe the same creatures.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Do you think they're migrating then? You said you think they're migrating along the river.
I think that they move to where food sources are at. They stay close to water. We all creatures has got to have water, to survive. I would think that they use that waterway as a water source and as a travel path. And with the deer in the area and the other, wild game, most likely, they would be migrating, I would think.
Very cool. How neat to live right behind a river, or have a river right behind you, and then have all of that activity going on. And I mean, have you heard of any recent activity?
Well, last Sunday morning, I really hadn't put this out very much. I did put it on my DATSO page. I had another sighting, and it was actually white Bigfoot that I saw, and it was just left my house. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was getting up early to go into work that Sunday morning, and I had just turned on a highway and started towards town, and it had come across the road in front of me from the right to the left, and there's a guardrail on each side of the road, and it had come from the end of one guardrail, moved across the road, and when I seen it, it was about 5 foot from the road edge going off the road, right at the other guardrail, and it was down on all fours, but it was moving in a sideways motion, kind of, I forget what it's called. I know the primates do that. I know gorillas, chimpanzees move in that sideways motion, and when I first seen it, I was kind of, did I really see that? And somebody asked me, said, well, how tall do you think it was? And I said, well, I think it was probably at least 6 foot tall, but it was down on all fours. It was a bit bigger than me. Probably 250 to 300 pounds, I would estimate the weight, just by the size of the body. And after I went back and looked at the area, I had actually stopped and got out and looked, and I've got photos, and I put those on my page, and I circled the areas where, there's actually that creek that runs by the house is along that side of the road. And when I looked, there's a pathway that goes down off the road, off that embankment down the creek. And that path, the pictures that I put up, you can tell it's a pretty well used path. But I think the reason that it had got down on all fours was to get down in that area. It was lowering its body as it was going down to go in through that entrance, because it wasn't a real big hole. What I'm saying is a hole is an opening that something had made, whether it's using that or not, to go down into that creek. That was my theory. And so if you look at my page, or I can send you the pictures. I've got them on my phone. I can send them a message to look at them. But I didn't want to see. I haven't pursued it as far as posting it on the page anymore, or making a big deal of it, because I've tried to be more reserved and think about what I'm doing. I didn't want a lot of people coming into the area. I did have several people ask me, where did this sighting take place? So I didn't want to have all these people come in before I had a chance to get there. And you have all kind of footprints. You have everything, just like a crime scene. You want to keep everybody away till you can look and investigate. So I really haven't said anything more since I posted that. I've tried to be intelligent and think about what I'm doing. So,
Good for you. That's really smart.
Yeah. I've only told my wife and maybe 2 other people about it other than that, So I have about 200 people that follow my page, and it's kind of sporadic, people, with their life and everything that's going on. And there's so many Facebook pages and all these other things that people's looking at with the media that we have now on social media. So, you see some of the same people coming in making comments, but so luckily I didn't get it there too much that a lot of people would be, wondering about it and wanting to know where it's at and coming this way, because like I said, it is very close to the house here. So
I've heard other researchers say that, after they let people know where they were, all kinds of people were showing up there and without permission, all over the place, setting up trail cams, and just totally disrespecting the whole space. So I think it's a good idea that you kind of keep it quiet where you're at.
yeah. Yeah.
So can we come over?
I wasn't sure if I could ask that yet. I was going to ask it afterwards. I was going to be like, oh, can we come?
Yeah. The actual property, I'm not sure who owns the property. I've got to, look into that, So I haven't went down in there. I just stayed on the edge of the road. What I've done was right there, looking for the, the footprints and such as that. Because I know my daughter did say that a couple of people down on that creek down fishing the other. So I don't know, who the property owners are, or, so I just want to make sure I don't get down there and get shot or shot, so.
Definitely.
I wonder if you could find out at the county who owns that property.
Yeah, I'm sure if I went to the courthouse, I could, look it up, pull a land plot, and see who owns it. I'm pretty sure I know who owns it, but I want to make sure. I always want to make sure everything's in order before I do something.
That's a good plan for investigating anything.
Yeah.
We used to do paranormal investigating before we were looking into Bigfoot, and it's so important that you get permission to be in those places rather than just going into abandoned buildings without permission. That's just a big no-no.
Yeah, because there might be another ghost there.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
might be
exactly.
yours. Might be
See,
yours if they don't get permission.
I've got a question to ask you. I know you said you've got a lot of Bigfoot sightings back there. Have you ever seen any lights? Maybe some different orb-looking lights?
Actually, when you go on and look at the video that I told you about, the Alabama wood booger, there is light, and a lot of people that went on that video on YouTube will say, "Well, that house was a car," but the lights that we saw, and I think it's in the second part that Alex kind of brings it up. He zooms in on it and he shows it, and, we question it. So when I went back down a couple days later, I was looking in that direction. It's actually a mountain back behind our property there. It's called Iron Mountain, and there's no houses that direction. There's nothing there that would get off that light or eye shine that we saw. So I'm not sure if it was really eye shine, or I know a lot of people talk about orbs and they kind of get into the paranormal with the Bigfoot. So I really haven't delved into that very much, the paranormal side of the Bigfoot or the UFO part of it. But I do know that for my research that I went and looked at the maps of the U.S. where the sightings have taken place that's been reported. It's my belief that maybe 5% or more sightings is never given. Nobody tells because of ridicule or the bullying or, so forth. But when you look at that and you look at the ghost sightings of the U.S. that's been reported, and you look at the UFO reporting map, they all overlay. So look at that and see what you think. And I believe a lot of that goes hand in hand. I have in the last few years that when science is in on the scene and they're giving their opinion about people that had Bigfoot sightings, ghost sightings, or UFO sightings, a lot of them, well, these are uneducated, normally white, lower class Americans that don't have a good education, that lives in a rural area or whatever, that's having it. They don't know what they're saying or whatever. They classify people, and put them in that box. But I know there's been a lot of doctors, lawyers. When you say doctors, even psychiatrists actually had sightings of different sorts. So,
There are so many intelligent people, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you're right. There are so many people that are just like wildly intelligent that are seeing these. They're not, they're just categorized. I just don't like that. That gets me mad.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So,
This is a good time to take a break. So we're about halfway through the show. So I think we'll take this opportunity to do our 2-minute commercial break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned, everybody. Awesome. That was a good break time.
yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't see you, Jen.
Oh, I wasn't doing it.
Oh,
You still can't see us?
nope, can't see a thing. I'm just looking into the camera.
Can you see yourself?
Very tiny picture of myself.
Huh. Well,
yeah. So.
Nana and a boo-boo.
I know, right?
We're looking quite fabulous.
Oh, I bet you are. I saw a picture you guys took of each other, or of all of us. Oh, there's a Snapchat there, or not Snapchat. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, Jenna, you sound really loud.
Why am I sounding so loud?
Well, you normally do, but I think in comparison to him. And Jason, if you want to turn down your speakers a little bit, because you're feeding back through. So let's see. It's not. See if it's feeding back through. Can you hear it feeding back through, Jenna?
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Am I less?
I hear myself, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. That's.
Am I less loud now?
Not really.
Shoot.
Is it bad? I can still kind of hear myself. Can you hear me okay?
Keep talking.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Is that okay? It's still feeding back for some
It
reason.
is. If you turn it down a little bit more, your own speaker, then it will be less likely to pick that up.
All right, how about now?
Keep talking.
Is that good? Can you hear me okay?
That sounds better.
Okay. I
How
just
about-
can't hear you very well.
How about me? Do I sound a little bit less loud?
No.
You sound good right there.
I'm just loud. Sorry. I'll try to talk quiet.
Okay.
No, I won't.
Out on this end.
It's not loud on that end?
Nope.
Oh, good.
She's just loud in my ear then.
Okay, 10 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarge.
And roll.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Jen Cruz, and this is the Journey Radio Show. When we are not live on the air, you can find us online at thejourneyradioshow.com. And hey, check out our YouTube channel because we're uploading our videos there too, so you can see the behind the scenes stuff. So you can check us out at SheSquatchers Official. Our website is SheSquatchers.com because we're the She-Squatchers. Won't you find our Facebook page there and give us a like and follow us because that's where we post our up-to-the-date, most interactive, this is what we're doing right now kind of thing is on Facebook. So please like and follow us there. And tonight we're here again with Jason Lawson from Alabama, and he's from the DATSO DATSO. I'm sorry, it's a hard word for me. I'm tongue twisting over it.
It's the Deeper Alabama Truth-Seeking Organization.
Deeper Alabama. Okay,
Yeah.
see now I didn't know that was
Yeah.
what that stood for because you didn't. It's all abbreviated.
Yeah. And you're
I
supposed to
never hear Jen
is-
cite or stumble.
Yeah. Now you're supposed to say is that so?
See, now that's really clever. I like that.
Yeah.
How much did you giggle about that before you came up with it?
Well, actually, I didn't even think about that when I come up with the name. It was just there's a lot of myths and legends. My dad, he used to tell about the white thing, which a lot of people believe is a white Bigfoot. And my brothers, I've got 6 brothers and 1 sister. But my brothers and I, we used to think the dad was just trying to scare us, when he would tell us these stories. But I wanted to try to delve into the myths and the legends of Alabama. And, I went more with the interviews that I do, people in Canada, Australia, all over the country. So, it's just not just Deeper Alabama, but it's just deeper into the legends and the truths, just trying to get the answers. I'm really inquisitive. I want to learn. I believe the more you know, the better that you are as a researcher. Trying to bring in as many people that I can that has knowledge and has experience. It helps me to grow. And as a community, if we can do that, everybody can grow from that, So that was the idea behind it was learning and taking this knowledge and spreading it out so everybody can gain from it.
Very good.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned that there was a white Bigfoot. I'm kind of interested on your thoughts. Do you think the white Bigfoot is a class of its own, or do you think maybe it's aging and that's why it's sure as white?
The one that I saw recently was not, I don't believe it was a full-grown adult. I've had a few people ask me this, and we've had discussions about it. Some of my friends and other researchers, and it was brought up that it might be some kind of genetic trait. I believe that it's probably just like we have different races, and we have different hair colors. I believe a lot of it is just maybe the certain species of the Bigfoot. It may be their diet. And then again, Uh, I know in Alabama, and I was looking at it today, trying to get more information. I wanted to be up to date. So, if you had questions for me, I could answer them, intelligently. Uh, but there's been a lot of sightings in Alabama of a white Bigfoot. So I don't think that it's just a mutation or a albino like you see in other species and different animals. Uh, I remember years ago, my dad took me and my brothers to a catfish pond where you could pay for what you caught by the pound. And I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and I caught a albino catfish. And my response was, "Somebody's done cleaned this one."
Oh,
Took the skin off of it. But it was white with pink eyes. That's the usual, description of an albino, whether it's a human or a different, creature. So I believe that it's just a different race of Bigfoot. I believe my hypothesis, my theory is Bigfoot is not just an ape, but it is a human offshoot. It's probably a predecessor to mankind now. Uh, I believe that they have learned to stay away from us and just live in nature, and it's just another species of human. And just like we have different hair colors and such, I believe that's the reason for the coloring.
so
Now,
you're more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
was it white, or was it more like a blonde?
Uh, it was white. It wasn't snow white. It being in nature, it wouldn't be, just pure white, but it was more of a white than a blonde color.
Okay. Go ahead, Jenna.
Oh, I forgot it. I was listening to your question.
Well, it must have been important then. Not really.
Must have.
So
It might pop in later.
awesome. Well, there was a sighting up in Minnesota that we went looking for a very first expedition. We went to check that one out, and that was a white Bigfoot. But I think that it was further described more as a blonde Bigfoot. It was more blonde than I think white, but very large actually. So, and it was aggressively. It was in the shallows of the water, and there was a native man who was fishing in his canoe, and it was getting dark out, and he tried to get back to the shore, and the Bigfoot was in the water at the shore and kept following him along the shore, and he wasn't coming in. It was aggressively, kind of holding its own by the shore. So he stayed out in the deep end for a couple hours actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have to. Going back to the coloring, I would think, there's no expert in this, field. Anybody that says they're an expert, there's nobody that's an expert.
You're right.
I don't know if you did this for 50 years, you could still call yourself an expert. Sorry, the pollen here has just been terrible. I've been fighting it for several weeks and pausing it.
Here
I
too.
believe it gets worse each year. I'm sorry about that, but I would think that the one that I saw, if it was a juvenile or a youth, that the color would probably been more white. And as they age, like I said, being out in the environment, it would probably tend to be more yellow or a light beige or something like that, because it would be dirty. So, that could be a possibility.
So you're under the impression, and as many people are, that this is a flesh and blood creature. Do you think any of the woo side?
I haven't really got into the woo. I've heard that term. I really haven't researched it. Yes, I believe it's a flesh and blood animal. I do. Well, I say animal. I'm going to say a being.
Creature.
Yeah. We're all creatures,
Mhm.
So, I think I would tend to say it's more human-like than anything else. What I know, the activity that we was having around our house, I could hear At times I would be at home alone and I thought the radio or a TV was on in another room, and I'd walk through the house to look, see what was left on, and there would be nothing on. And I would be hearing like conversations and realize that it was outside. And then at times hear kind of a mumbling. I've listened to the Sierra sounds, and it was nothing like the samurai chatter or anything like that, but it sounded like somebody speaking to somebody else out behind the house or around the house, as it got dark. So I believe that they probably do have a language. A lot of people have a theory that it's maybe a Native American language, like the Cherokee or something like that they use, but I don't know.
Have you ever tried to get some audio recordings of this?
No, I haven't done any audio recordings. From what I understand, and y'all may have experience with this, more experience, but electronics, for some reason, just like the trail cams or a video recorder, if it's a digital or something like that. Now, an older type cassette recorder may do it. Just like, now think about this, the Patterson Gimlin film with Patty. I believe it was 1960, was it 69? Is that correct? I may be wrong. I believe it was in the late 60s. Anyhow, when they did the video, they used an 8mm camera. They didn't have digital. So my theory is that for some reason, the frequencies from these devices, they're able to detect. When you get into the empathic part or you get into the psychic part or whatever, there's a lot of things that irritate me as far as electronics being around and stuff like that. And so if I could find an older type recording device, I would probably try to use it. But with what we have today, I believe it scares them off.
That's a popular opinion. I'll say that much.
Yeah. So in the chat room, they're asking samurai chatter. And so, those of us who are really into Bigfoot, we understand what that means. But for the listeners out there who may not understand what the samurai chatter is about, Ron Moorhead had recorded some sounds of Bigfoot, and there are some particular recordings called the samurai sounds. And it does really sound like some samurais talking, doesn't it? It was quite interesting to listen to that.
Yeah, Ron is actually he's gotten with a linguist that was in the U.S. military, and he's actually put together a language from that. I don't know if you're familiar with that or if you've looked it up, but it's very interesting that the vocal sounds and going through that. I've sat several nights and listened to the audio, and it sounds like maybe 2 or 3 individuals trying to converse with each other. And there's actually part of it that sounds like human language at times. So it is very interesting.
It is very interesting. Very interesting. Well, maybe if you hear it at your new place, maybe you can get out there and maybe just set a recorder by the window with the window open or something.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you really quick. You talked a little bit about being an empath. And so how long have you known that you were an empath? And then the other thing I like to ask about that is, I'm an empath. Jena's an empath. There's varying levels of awareness of being an empath, and different empaths will sense different things. So I was going to ask, what is it that you pick up on, and how does it come through to you?
Well, most of my life I have known, but I've never told anybody till recently. I told my mom and dad before my dad passed away. I said, when I'm around people that have physical ailments, I know where they're hurting at in their body. If it's their back or maybe their leg, or even if they're having bad headaches, I can tune in on that. I know. And a lot of times people talk about when they eat that certain foods, there's textures that they don't like. Well, I can see objects across the room or something like that, and I'm able to look at that object, but I can feel it and know like the temperature of it and such as that. So, there's different things, and the abilities that I have, I've never told a lot of people, I was working a job one time, it's been probably over 20 years ago. I started a new job, and I was working in an electric motor repair shop. And I had hired in to do the blueprints for the motors and the AutoCAD, the drafting, the computer drafting, drawing the parts and, in detail. And so one of the owners of the company, we was out looking at one of the motors that was sent in from a customer, and he said, "How does this work?" And I looked at it and I told him and explained to him how it worked. And he said, "Where did you go to school for that?" I said, "I've never been to school for this." And he said, "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "I can look at something and know how it works, and anything
Wow.
mechanical like it, And he was just amazed, So there's been a lot of times in my past before I was a better person that I could manipulate people. And a lot of times, and I had to get away from that. That's a dark side that you can, in a dark path you can go down. So I've had to learn to temper myself, and and just around certain people, that negativity and around crowds. It's hard to be around crowds because it's like I hear a lot of people's thoughts and even the energy that they put off. So it's hard a lot of times to be in crowded places. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think that, I'm just being a snob or, just being backwards or, what do you call it, introvert.
Agoraphobic.
So
you can hear thoughts
yeah.
of people on purpose or just accidental?
Both. A lot of times it seems to be more prevalent when people are excited or they're stressed. They're dealing with a certain situation. I already know, before they tell me what's going on, I already know what's going on.
Yeah.
So
Cool. That's awesome. See, now these were good questions, right, Jena? Because we spend a lot of time together, and it's funny how we pick up on each other physically and emotionally. Sometimes Jena would get nauseous and she'd take a nausea pill and she'd hand me one because I'd be like, oh, because I would be picking up on it from her and couldn't block it out.
Don't tell some of the stories,
I
Jen.
won't tell the stories, Jena. They get really personal. She needs to mind her own body, I tell you what.
Yeah, a lot of
Like,
times when people's going through things, it's a mirror effect. You pick up on what they're feeling, and before you know it, what they're going through, you're going through.
Exactly. So, Jen taught me how to say goodbye to that. That was kind of cool.
How to let it go and turn it off. But what I found was that if I'm with Jena for too many days in a row nonstop, I have trouble tuning her out.
What?
Yeah. It's like she's this constant buzz in my ear or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding. So, but okay. I have a question though. What about the emotions? Are you feeling those as prominently as physical sensations?
Yeah. It's a roller coaster a lot of times. That's why I try to distance myself from a lot of people because you can pick up on different people's emotions, and it really wears on you. It's psychological. It's you start having these thoughts that are their thoughts a lot of times, and it's like dual personality or more a lot of times.
And you have to ask yourself, is this mine or theirs? Have you ever been in a car and driven by and someone drives by and you catch it like real quick, and then after they're gone it goes away and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, or even at a stoplight, and you're sitting there like, where'd that thought come from? And you're looking at the person beside you and you see what they're doing in the car, and you connect, and you say, well, I know now. So, like I said, a lot of times when people are stressed or they worried,
Or
their
pain.
emotions, yeah, or in pain, uh, you just pick up on it so quick. So,
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm really interested in the fact that you said that you can see how things work and the temperature of things. I think that's so neat. I'd love to hear more about that after the show. Maybe not tonight, but another day.
okay.
Yeah, that is interesting. I actually don't sense inanimate objects unless it's a living thing or a rock, or I think rocks are living things, but soil is living. I sense plants and trees and animals. Um, One of my weirdest empath stories, I'm driving down the road and there was these birds, I think ravens and eagles, were eating some dead skunk on the side of the road. And as I drove by this, I tasted the skunk that they were eating as if I was them.
Oh.
And it tasted good. It, it, it was like, this is our favorite. It's got this extra peppery flavor. And I was like, oh, that is so weird. And I couldn't get the taste out of my mouth for a long time. But it wasn't like a bad taste because I was sensing it through the bird that found it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Isn't that odd?
Well, Jason, if you happen to follow Jen on Facebook, every once in a while she'll send out pictures or videos of like hummingbirds. And as an empath, you watch this and you don't even have, I mean, you just don't even you just mute it. You don't put the volume on at all and you just watch them. And all of a sudden you're just like, ooh, I mean, it's beautiful, the feeling that it makes you feel. And so thank you, Jen, for sending those things. And if you don't follow Jen, you might want to now, just to make feel happy, I guess.
I always tell people you can tune into anything you want at any time and see how it's feeling. And, practice with videos. It works. Hummingbirds are my favorite thing to feel. They feel so fantastic. Have you tried hummingbirds, Jason?
No, I haven't.
Oh, they feel so fun.
And free and beautiful and happy and floating.
It had just come to my memory. I haven't thought about this in quite a while. I have a real good friend. We've known each other since we were like 4 or 5 years old. Used to live next door to each other. And on the weekends, we would go out, and ride around. And in my teenage years, we'd, ride around, drink beer, smoke cigarettes, being rebellious. But we was riding around one night, and my younger brother is a year younger than me. He was with us. And we got to horsing around, and stuff. And for some reason, I told them, I said, I've got these powers. And they're like, oh, no, you can't do nothing. And I said, feel the power. And it was a blackout. The whole city, every light went off. And my friend said, get out. Get out. Walk home. And my brother brought that up probably at Christmas. He said, hey, do you remember when that happened? I said, yeah, I remember when it happened. And what brought that to memory was today somebody posted on Facebook, said, if you're driving down the road and you go under one of the street lamps, does it go off at times? And I've never thought about it, but yeah, every time I'm driving to work and I drive under these lights, it's like they're just going off as I'm going down the road. And I'm like, somebody needs to fix those. So I've never really thought about it.
Same thing happened to me when I used to walk my dog around the block at the very first house that I ever bought. It was an old neighborhood, Jena, that makes a sound. Please don't do it. And I was walking around the block with my dog, and every time I would go underneath a light, it would turn off. And I was so frustrated by this. And I said, whoever was the idiot who decided to put motion detectors on the street lamps needs to be fired, because you kind of want it to be lit up when you're walking underneath it, but it turns off when you walk underneath it and turns back on when you're gone. That doesn't make any sense. And I don't know how many people I told that to. And someone finally said, I don't think there are motion detectors on the street lamps, Jen. And I'm like, there have to be on there because they turn off every time I walk underneath them and they turn back on as soon as I'm gone. It has to be a motion sensor. And I didn't understand at the time that it was picking up on the light that we give off. People who are have extra gifts often give off an extra more light or a higher energy frequency that sometimes can be picked up by certain types of light sensors. So it's very interesting. It seems to be the older ones that do it more so than the newer ones. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're coming up on the end of the show and we have a few minutes left. I would like you to touch really quick on why you think people are more into the Bigfoot research now.
Well, my theory on that is probably from television shows, even the paranormal. I'm trying to think of the name of the show. I've watched it some, Supernatural. I believe this next year is going to be the last season. But with it coming on several years ago, it's kind of brought to the forefront the paranormal. And then, it opened up the door for the Bigfoot shows, Finding Bigfoot, Mountain Monsters, and some of these others. So people's got more interested in it. And I believe that they're not afraid of the ridicule as much as they used to be. I see a lot of younger people getting involved. I know that you ladies had, is it Johnny Bradley?
Yes.
The 13-year-old, I believe.
Yes.
He was on your show, and he's got involved, and a lot of youth's gotten involved, and so it's got a lot more popular. But I believe there's also been a lot more sightings. I believe that people are not afraid to tell, and there's also more people out looking. So I believe it's just the tip of the iceberg. I would project, and I'm going to prophesy that probably in the next 5 to 10 years that it's really going to explode a lot more than what it has. I believe there's a lot more people getting involved, and a lot of friends that I have, I've kind of reached out to because I know their personalities, and I know how they live and how they think. So they're more attuned to coming on board and listening and getting involved. So certain people that I meet through different venues and different things, I request their friendship on Facebook. There's a lot of times that there's mutual friends, that I've gained from that. I see some of the other people that I've met and see their friends and see that they may be, say that they're empathic or they in the paranormal, and request their friendship. And excuse me, a lot of times they ask me, they say, do I know you, or why are you asking me, to be your friend on Facebook? It's a little bit different being a friend on Facebook or through the social media than it is in reality in real life, but there's a lot more people that I know that I've reached out to, and I see that in other people, in other researchers, because I want to learn and I want to know, and I believe that's what a lot of it is.
Awesome. And we're in the last minute here. Can you tell us everyone really quick where they can find you online?
You can find me on Facebook. It's DATSO. It's Deeper Alabama Truth Seeking Organization. And you can find me there. I don't have a YouTube channel set up yet.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason Lawson, for coming on. You can find him at DATSO, DATSO on Facebook. And we'll catch you next week, everybody. Just keep it squatchy.
Okay. And also, Empath Sanctuary.
Empath Sanctuary. Gotcha.
I'm on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.